So I always hear people get the word invest in yourself always confused sometimes. People tell me, Tommy, the reason I bought this Lexus or this Mercedes is because it is an investment. The reason I bought this suit, this phone, these things are also investments. And I am invested in myself because when I arrive somewhere, I need to be able to basically network with them on the same level. And I always say to myself, that's a very stupid way to justify spending money on things you don't need. And honestly, to impress people that probably you're not going to impress with those things. And if you do impress them, it's probably not the people you actually should be talking to. So in this video right here, the whole goal is to tell you 5 very simple things to go ahead and invest in yourself. Now, by the way, these things, I gotta be honest, guys, they're very boring. They're very basic. But a lot of the times, the things we need to do, they're basic, they're boring, and they make a lot of sense for the future. You see, like some light in here just makes things a little bit better, okay? But that's the whole goal for this video, is not to complicate anything whatsoever. Now, as always, guys, like this video on top of also subscribe and hit the bell so you get notified. Now, the very first investment you should probably make is learn to remove the friction in your life. It's a very good investment. And for the most part, that's going to be paying off debt. You know, the average person, they owe a bunch of money in debt, whether it's credit card debt, whether it's a bunch of consumer debt, whether it's, for example, student loan debt, and eventually they get a crazy mortgage. And it's always like you go your whole life just owing somebody something. And the people that don't owe anybody something, they become basically like the awkward people. The people that's kind of like, that's strange. You don't have a credit card. That's strange. You don't have a mortgage. You know, like those things are so rare and in between. But when you think about it, when you don't have any debt, it really does remove a lot of the friction in your life, because whenever you acquire debt, although it gets you something that you need or want to invest into a little faster, it does increase your level of risk always. It's just how debt operates. It's the way debt works. So when you take off the debt, it removes a lot of the friction. And it's an investment because when you don't have any student loan debt, when you don't have even a mortgage, once you get to that level and that point, and you don't have any credit cards or any of that stuff, it removes all these things that have demands on your income. So when you actually earn money, it's your money. When you have money, it's your money. When you get paid, it's not like you have to split it up with a whole bunch of people that you actually owe money to. This is what being debt-free is all about. So that's the first investment I would make. And I made that investment at the age of like 25 years old and have not regretted it since. Now, number 2, guys, is going to be start a retirement account. Again, this stuff is basic. It is simple, but it's the difference between you being 65 and being broke or being 65 and having $1 million that's basically fully tax-free. That's the big difference. So whether you get, for example, a retirement account with your business, their 401k, their Roth IRA, all the little retirement accounts people basically have, 301b, like there are a bunch of them. So you ask your employer, what do we have available as far as retirement plan? Do we have a matching program? And that basically means like if you invest X, they will invest X also with you, and it's basically just free money. And if you work for yourself or you have extra money to invest, the answer is get an individual retirement account. It's an IRA, whether it's, for example, the Roth IRA or a regular one. I highly recommend getting the Roth option because basically you invest your money after you pay the taxes, so that money gets to grow tax-free. And when you got to take it out, it's all your money. You don't have to pay anything to taxes whatsoever. That's why I recommend the Roth option. So this basically means retirement accounts, they're an investment. And it's pretty obvious because it allows your money to grow tax-free and allows you to have a big safety nest or nest egg when the time actually comes when you're actually a lot older, which makes a lot of sense. Now, number 3, guys, is going to be the most obvious one, right? But it's basically invest in a skill, education, mentorship, books, whatever it is. Now, for me, I can basically learn just via reading some books, repeating things over and over again, practicing and teaching. It's kind of like the way I learn. But for some people out there, they don't learn this way. They learn a lot better via having somebody out there teach them something, whether it's a course, whether that's physically or online, or whether it's having a personal mentor. My advice is, yes, the way you learn best is very important because you don't want to go against the grain. But my advice is also, like, the best way to learn is the way you can afford to learn at this very moment. You know, if you can't afford an expensive mentor, if you can't afford, for example, an expensive course, or you can't afford to go to college, the answer is get some $10 books. some used books, and you start reading those. Even though you fall asleep in the first 10 minutes, guess what? Eventually, you build up willpower. Just because something doesn't come natural to you doesn't mean you can't develop it and grow it. And I think that's like a big problem today, because everyone assumes that if something is hard, it's probably not meant to be. That's nonsense. It's foolishness. Anything that's going to be worth something, a lot of the times, is going to come with some level of difficultness, okay? It's just the way things operate. So when I first started reading, it was hard, it was boring, and I would fall asleep. Today I can read like basically like for like almost like 4.5 hours without stopping. And that's a massive, well, 3 normally, and 4.5 if I try. Okay, but it's like it used to be like 10 minutes and 15 minutes. The point is, learn the best way you can if you can afford to. But if you can't afford to, just learn the way you can right now at this very moment. And whenever you invest into a skill, that can mean a business, that can mean a change in mindset, that can mean basically a $50,000 pay increase. You know, it's all different levels. You know, whether you want to learn for a skill for a job, learn for a skill for a business, or learn for a skill just to change who you are, which will in some way develop into some positive thing, the answer is it's always a good investment to invest in knowledge. You know, so shout out to the Bible, because the Bible has the best knowledge that I've found so far in any of the books that I've read. Okay, now number 4, guys, is going to be own your own home. Not right now, and not if you can't afford it, and not if you don't need it. And that's very unpopular advice, because everyone always says, no, it's always a good time to own a home. It is always going to be a good investment. But I'm not your dad. I'm not your mom. I'm not your uncle that always has good ideas and is broke. Not that person. Who I am, though, is the guy who's going to tell you this, okay? You buy a home when you need a home and when you can afford a home. And that's very unpopular. In the meantime, you save up for a down payment. And whether you have a 20% down payment or you want to save up more money for your down payment, the answer is beyond that, that's fine too. But the answer is I see a lot of folks make this mistake. Buying a home is a great investment, not, for example, for growing your money, but, for example, for increasing your stability. In the sense that when you look at, for example, what a property costs, and what it costs to actually own it over 30 years and what you get to sell it for, you get to usually just break even. You don't actually make a crazy profit. So when you think about buying a home, think about buying a home for security. When you own a home, no mortgage, the answer is you don't have to worry about that big expense every single month. You have more security in the sense that if you lose your job, your expenses are very low. And that's a big, big thing, right? So overall, I recommend when you buy a home, put down 10, 20%, get it on a 15-year mortgage where it's no more than a third of your monthly income. That helps you out a lot. You can own a lot faster, and buy a home when you're debt-free. You have a fully funded emergency account, and you buy one when you need one. If you're just getting started in life and you don't really know where you want to live in the next 5 years, the answer is you don't need a home. If you don't have a family, you probably don't need a home either. Okay, so I made a big mistake where I just basically bought a home because I just felt like it was the next logical step. But if I could think back to that moment right there, I'd probably say, hey, just keep renting for a while, save up that money to buy the house you actually want to buy, which is great stuff. Have it on the side. When the time comes, you buy it when you actually need one. But don't just buy something automatically because you think it's the best move to actually make. Because a home, you can't move that stuff around. You can't liquidate it whenever you want to liquidate it. So remember, it's an investment, but more for security, stability, and safety for yourself, more than it is, for example, to grow your money in any sense. Now, number 5, guys, is going to be invest in relationships. Exactly what it sounds like. This does not mean take people out to fancy dinners, take people out to basically get cups of coffee, all this stuff. The answer is just invest in relationships. And a lot of times it's not monetary, it's just, for example, time-wise. So the more relationships you invest into in your youth, whether you're in your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, whatever it is, okay, the answer is probably the better life you're actually going to have, because at the core, we are, relationship people, or relationship creatures, or social animals, whatever you want to call it, okay? But the point is, relationships are very, very important. And more than often, when you look at someone that's broke, their friends are broke. When you look at somebody that's very wealthy, their friends tend to be wealthy. When you look at somebody that tends to be happy, their friends tend to be very happy. So you have to associate with the people that have characteristics that you tend to admire also. So then that way, those things can rub off on you. Because whether you want to, whether you don't, if you spend a lot of time with somebody, eventually some of their good habits and their bad habits are also going to wear out on you. Or wear on you? not wear out, right? I think it's wear on you. But guys, that is it for this video. I told you it was simple, it was boring, and it's just basically basic stuff. But if you focus on these basic things, you're probably gonna have a better life than the average person for sure. Now, as always, guys, like this video on top. I also subscribe, hit the bell to get notified, and comment down below the number 5, so I know you made it all the way to the end of this video. On top, up here is in the banger. Over here is my face, Instagram, and as always, long-term team officially out.